Thanks for hanging in there. I know this is probably the last session of the entire summit. We've seen a lot of really incredible things this entire week. A lot of super exciting technology, great announcements. So today, we're going to talk about achieving your mission with AI-driven decisions. But this is not really going to focus on specific features or specific technologies. It's going to be how we think about deploying AI solutions. What are AI solutions and how we think about doing that within the public sector, and what kind of things can we do to enable those solutions to come and actually achieve the mission. So a little bit about myself. My name is Andrew Hahn. I'm the solutions architect here at Databricks for the Navy and Marine Corps team. I spent 10 years as an active duty officer in the Navy, both operationally and with the engineering and acquisitions community, as well as did some research. I was an AI researcher, AI engineer deploying computer vision deep learning models in the defense space. So through that perspective, let's go ahead and talk about how we actually achieve the mission with AI. So we've all seen this slide. We've all seen a lot of these slides today. Every organization wants to be a data and AI organization. That's true across enterprise, commercial, and public sector. And it's widely recognized that AI it's not just a trend. It actually is going to drive significant business value. It's a business imperative. And that's, again, true for commercial and for the public sector. We see this with a lot of policy and legislation now that's coming out throughout the federal government. We've got, legislation, we've got data strategy, executive orders, mandating things like moving to cloud to, utilize the scalability and enhance performance with cloud computing, federating and unifying data estate across all the disaggregated data silos that exist in the government, as well as adopting data and AI for, obviously achieving your mission. So again, we're talking about how we actually view AI solutions. Like, what are AI solutions? Truly, what is an AI and how is it going to drive value? And what is it not? So let's start with what it isn't. Common misconceptions. Universal solution. I loved this because back in the military, you'd have a commander who would say something like, oh yeah, here's a problem. Can't you just sprinkle some AI on that? That is not what AI is. Additionally, it does not replicate human judgment. So a lot of high impact communities and organizations require humans to make decisions in real time. An AI model is not going to replicate human judgment in incredibly complex and dynamic environments. And it's also not just a chatbot. It's not just ChatGPT. You don't just go and, not simply talking with something that kind of seems like a novelty, And there's also, people think that AI is just Gen AI or just an LLM, but there's multiple different tiers of an AI model or system that's not simply like a chatbot. So what is it? I like to think of it in a couple different ways. So that you can use it as an enabler for process linkage, AKA process automation, different things that have happened historically. They might have been an automated process, but there's a manual component in between those. So think of a predictive maintenance workflow where you're looking at different sensor data or something, making a prediction on that sensor data, but before, you would have to actually analyze that, then go back and pull some paperwork for maintenance, then go check supply and route all those things based on your understanding of each of those different elements. It can be a process linker where you actually automate those flows to get to a prescriptive action instead of having a bunch of manual interface between that. A decision support system. So this goes directly back to the human judgment thing. So when you think about something in the DoD, there's incredibly rich data collection environments coming from very, very different sensors. So radar, electronic warfare, computer vision, all kinds of different sensors and information that are coming in, and a human mind cannot process all of that effectively. So bringing an AI system that comes together to do multimodal, sensor fusion or data analysis to enhance the individual's ability to make a decision. And then the efficiency enhancement. This is probably what we're mostly familiar with, seeing things like coding assistants or document summarization tools, or taking a large corpus of organizational knowledge and summarizing those things for a specific question. So again, AI offers large potential within the public sector. So some of the key use cases that we commonly see, real-time data analysis, either streaming or batch, efficiency and automation, automation and efficiency, predictive maintenance, whether it's a fleet of ships or aircraft, submarines, USPS mail trucks, or Amtrak trains, general purpose equipment fleets, quality control and risk management. So why is it really hard? 85% of organizations are not confident in going to production with an AI application. And a lot of it comes down to the understanding, again, of what AI is, what it isn't, and what a system actually needs to go to production and be an effective AI system. Another one of the slides that I'm sure we've seen probably 50 times this week, but across every organization, data estates are fragmented. There's multiple different tools. There's multiple different tools, a data science tool, data sources that all are different tech stacks. They're not unified, which leads to high cost, proprietary data formats, and no unified governance layer on top of that. And the data aspect is incredibly important because, as we all know, with AI models, whether it's just a classical ML model or a large language model, they're very data hungry. You need data, you need quality data, you need lots of data to train effective predictors for whatever it is for your end use case. So now let's talk about what really it takes to build a production AI system. So AI systems are really made up of a few components, and we're going to go a little bit deeper than this slide. But the first one, data. We just talked about data. We need effective, clean data from maybe multiple different data sources, unified in one place that you can access, the model can access for either training or actual inference. Then we have the models. So another common misconception with AI is it's just a model. It's not. If you want to go to production and actually derive value from it, you need to have this whole system. So the model is an individual layer. So what's challenging here, do I build my model? Do I build my own? Do I bring one? And which model do I choose? Do I need an LLM or a generative model for a simple classification problem? Probably not. It's like bringing a jackhammer when I needed just a hand hammer or something like that. And then the actual application. So what's the end goal here? Is this a user-facing application? Is somebody asking a free text question like you would to a Genie data room? Or is this going to be one of those process linkages? Does the classification of a certain workflow just yield maybe like a binary number or something that enables that to go to the next workflow? So it's more of a middle layer than a user-facing application, or is it a plugin like a coding assistant? And then when you have all of these three elements, is there a layer of governance on top of that? Can I trace and secure all of the data that is existing in that system? The initial data sources, the models themselves, and then how the applications are actually running. So even further, we saw the nice big block diagram, the data, the models, and the applications. But I love this graphic. It's a little bit of an eye chart, but this comes from our AI security framework. We've identified essentially 12 key components to fielding a production AI application or an AI system. And it spans the data operations, machine learning operations, and DevSecOps portions of a pipeline, all under one unified governance layer. So over here on the left with our data, under that data subblock, we've got multiple different things. So we've got the data ingestion portion, the raw data. We've got the ETL pipelines, actually getting that into a usable state, cleaning it, bringing it together like we talk about with our medallion architecture. Okay, and then once we get to those gold standard tables, those clean data that we know that's the highest quality data, then how do we featureize that? How do we store those features for, to be able to replicate training pipelines or evaluation pipelines? And then is that cataloged and discoverable across your entire organization? Then you get to move into the machine learning portion, where you're actually doing the model training, you're actually doing the model development, and then you're doing the model management. Do you have a repository for different models that can be versioned and iterated upon so you get the best model as you're running your MLOps pipelines? Then you have that application layer. Are you serving it? Is it a REST endpoint? Is it in an application, or is it in a batch process? And then this entire system needs to be able to operate on a feedback loop. You need to be able to monitor the inferences, the inputs, the outputs, check for things like model drift, data drift, concept drift, and as the data changes, because it ultimately will, how the model performance works, how do you re-trigger that to continuously improve those models, version them, and roll out the next one. There's no such thing as I developed a model, I put it in production, and it's good to go, and it works forever. You always have to be iterating because data is always changing. So enter the Databricks Data Intelligence Platform. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit of technology. So Databricks Data Intelligence Platform obviously links all the elements of a normal data workflow together. So we've got our data ingestion, our ETL, orchestration, workflow automation, AI data science, and data warehousing, all under one unified governance layer with Unity Catalog. So really all of those elements that we just saw that make up an AI system, you can build it directly on the Databricks platform. Ultimately, this allows you to own and control your own data, which within PubSec is a big thing, right? You don't necessarily want your data going outside the boundaries of your security barriers. So you own your models, own your own data, have your governance and security for whatever the standard is. Is it FedRAMP High? Is it IL5? Is it top secret? So Databricks gives you that end-to-end platform for any type of machine learning or AI system. Classical AI, deep learning, computer vision, neural networks, large language models, Gen AI, whatever that might be, with all the key features that we've talked about this week, and a lot of the stuff that we haven't that's still in here, like our model serving, our model monitoring, managed vector search, our ML flow integration, model registry, and then all the great stuff that we saw this week. So now, the important question, how do we get there in the public sector? I always like to start any data or analytics problem with why. Like, what are we actually doing here? When we're talking in public sector, we're not looking at maximizing revenue, generally speaking. DoD, you're maximizing mission readiness. IRS, the Inspector General, everybody's got a unique mission set. So as an executive, you'll know what the mission is. And from that mission, you can set strategy and derive organizational goals. Those goals might have key performance metrics or something like that. And then once you get to that, so how does your KPP actually drive the mission? Then you can back out what the problem is that you're going to solve with an AI system. These are all applications across various federal entities that are in production today, using effective AI applications to deliver that mission. And from my time inside the government and working with the government, I've kind of identified essentially 3 different pillars that you in the PubSec as a leader or as a data science team lead or something need to understand. So the first thing is tooling. So we're talking the technology, we talk Databricks, but ultimately what we need to do is give our data science teams and our ML practitioners the best tools to be able to actually build these things. So does that exist inside of your security baseline, some pre-configured architecture or platform that allows people to use the best-in-class tools to build these AI pipelines? The biggest thing here, in my opinion, is the unification of the data estate. There's tons and tons and tons of different data sources that exist out there, but you really need to unify all that together to build those production-grade AI applications. Giving your data science teams these tools in a secure boundary that they can work within allows them to not focus on the infrastructure, but it allows them to actually focus on the AI and the data science. And this is, the next one is quite possibly the most difficult and prevalent portion within the public sector, but the process and the policy. So lots of process and policy exists and has existed in a pre-sort of cloud computing technology era. These are absolute killers to innovation. Friction loss based on waiting for process to be greenlit or changed or something. Personally, I've experienced 2 massive cloud data, 2 cloud like enclaves that existed on government cloud, and there's no technological barrier to sharing data between those 2, but it took a year plus just to authorize, with some paperwork, the ability to transit data between two clouds that were on this DoD information network. That's the kind of stuff that absolutely kills your AI efforts. That kills innovation. So rethinking how we think about data sharing agreements, making it simpler to achieve ATOs for whatever applications you're building, and making it simpler to actually field those applications. And then at the end of the day, people. Your people are your number one asset. As a leader within the public sector, you know what your mission is, but the people on the front lines know where the actual problems are. So if you give them the tools and you remove the friction in terms of policy and process, you will allow them to innovate and actually solve those problems. At the top of your organization, you probably don't know what it is every day that these people are encountering at the 7 levels down, but they do. They want to solve them. Give them the tools and give them the capability to actually be able to implement those things, and you will be absolutely amazed with the outcomes that you see. And then the last thing is normalize experimentation in data science. At the end of the day, data science is still science. You need to do experimentation. So don't expect that V1 is going to be the best possible model or the best possible system out there. If you can get to V1 and it's minimally acceptable, allow your teams to run and iterate and just expect that it's going to be an experimentation process, but you will eventually get to that business value. So this is an example of sort of those 3 pillars coming together. Within the Department of Defense, this is a program called Advana. This is the DoD-wide created a cloud platform within a secure boundary that brought in multiple different technologies, ATO'd, accredited, and allows any user to come on board within the DoD and use those tools. Databricks is the data management layer for Advana. So since they were able to essentially bring in a bunch of different data sources, put in processes for data ingestion and data sharing, and give the infrastructure and tooling to teams across the DoD, we've seen absolutely incredible results. Something like $14 billion have been identified proactively, deobligated, reobligated, essentially efficiently distributing money that would have been friction loss somewhere else. We've been able to achieve within the Advana platform. So the goal was not, hey, let me get to clean audit when they built Advana. It was, let me give everybody on the edge the tools to be able to actually do the data science and implement AI effectively. So we've got great financial outcomes here, but then we also have a bunch of mission outcomes. We did real-time predictive analytics for Afghan refugee crisis, like optimizing PPE and supplies and housing and healthcare and stuff, as well as a bunch of different predictive maintenance workflows across all the different services, the Marines, the Navy, Air Force, and the Army. So I just really like this because that's kind of an example of how you can use those 3 fundamental pillars to get to the production-ready, mission-driven AI. So with that, thank you all for your time. I'm going to welcome up to the stage Shannon, Bisselink, and we're going to have a wonderful panel with some great panelists and share some insights on how they've been able to do this within their organizations. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew, and hi to everyone. Again, recognize this is probably your very last session of Summit, and we appreciate you sharing it with us. I've been in the public sector space for a little over a decade, and if you're like me, I'm excited by AI, and I'm also wondering what's in store in terms of the compliance and the regulatory, and so I'm excited to moderate this session and really want to welcome to the stage 2 wonderful panelists, first being Suresh Kaudi. Suresh, if you heard from him yesterday, is our Senior Information Officer as well as a data leader at World Bank. Welcome, Suresh. And then our second speaker for today, thank you, Dr. Spencer Schaefer. Dr. Spencer Schaefer is a retired, congratulations, Chief AI Officer at the VA and currently a Chief Technology Officer at Lunar Analytics. So welcome to you both. And I might stand just to make this easy. But I gave a brief introduction for the both of you, but if you could tell a little bit more about your role, what you do, and how it pertains to AI. Suresh, do you want to start?
Yeah. Thank you, Shannon. And I know this is the last session. We'll try to be as succinct as we can and give out as much information on AI as we can. So a brief introduction about me. My name is Suresh Kaudi. I've worked 2.5 decades at the bank, primarily on data, formulated data strategy for the bank from 2012, which ran until 2020. Currently, we are doing the cloud strategy. As part of the cloud strategy, interoperability being the key aspect. We want to make sure we reduce the data silos, unify the data, have a unified governance model on it, and not just have the data, which is the structured component of it, but also have the unstructured component of it to have a framework where we can interact between those two data sets. Also, very important as part of this is also we are formulating a data serving strategy, which will help all the application teams in the new realm of the world, which is data products. We'll be publishing several data products, which will further be leveraged and used by the teams. And last but not the least is the AI that is currently in demand. We are working towards standing up the organization, enabling the data in a form which is AI ready, which can be consumed by applications to build use cases like narrow AI, agentic AI, compound AI, AI features enabled, augmented AI. All of these are some of the features that currently I'm working on and leading the efforts on the World Bank. Thank you.
Thank you. So Spencer Schaefer, I'm a pharmacist by degree. Practiced kind of clinical pharmacy for a few years in ICU and perioperative care. Throughout all that time, I always worked on innovation, started data analytics, lots of kind of robotic innovations and so forth. Led in the last few years into helping with the somewhat known electronic health record migration to Cerner in the VA. Got the opportunity to review all 18,000 interfaces and decide which ones were going to be replaced and not. Grew from there into Chief Health Informatics Officer for Kansas City VA, then the Solution Architect for the National Artificial Intelligence Institute, and finally Chief AI Officer for Vision 15 last couple of years. Had the fortune, been one of the few people who was able to have the fortune of all the recent activities in the federal government and retire at the age of 51, which is wonderful. And so with that, I had started in November. We have a new company called Lunar Analytics. This is kind of the soft launch, I guess, here. And we do agentic AI for healthcare. So a lot of in the space of pharmacy benefits management type agentic AI. And then we have a lot of new things under development and stealth. Just kind of think of lots of different agents, ecosystems that will be available API to plug into about anywhere. So that's kind of where we're going with that.
Thank you both so much. You have a wealth of experience and quite diverse backgrounds, but one thing that might bring you all together is the objective to maintain mission-critical outcomes while working with AI. And so how do you balance that, hoping to achieve mission-based outcomes while implementing new technology, since you've got the mic, Dr. Schaefer?
Sure. So I think that one thing to think about is, well, we've got a couple minutes here. We've got 9 million patients, 400,000 employees, and several petabytes of data as well we're trying to do. But I think the 2-minute summary of how you manage an organization like that is you really have to start with being very innovative up front and taking advantage of your field people, which I think in this case the VA really did up front and gave the opportunity for people like myself to really go out there and gave us tools like Databricks to begin with. With that, we were able to really quickly realize, like 23 months ago, we found out agentic AI. We actually built our first multi-agent agents, our multi-agent, models, and had some really crazy, amazing results from it, from just our first run. And we were like, this is the world's different, right? Like it's going to be totally different. And so we focused completely on infrastructure. Okay. And so, with that infrastructure came the need, because we knew that it was going to be no good at all to have a bunch of people running around wishing they could do AI and not have a real platform to do it on at scale like we have. So, I think the biggest things that we needed to really learn on was, number one, like how do we empower people to do it? Number two is, how do we not only empower them, but how do we allow them the opportunity to upskill? how do we build them the full infrastructure to get availability to? And finally, very much to the point of Andrew is, we've got to make sure that we eliminate the paperwork and the barriers to that. That's been very challenging, and I guess as retired, I can be even more vocal about it. But I think, most federal agencies are very, very beholden to contractors, right? And so you have these contract companies, and their job, they get paid by the amount of hours they get done. And unfortunately, we have a tendency to do the butts and seat contracting stuff with the very processes that we need to make faster. And so there's just a natural conflict of interest there. And so one of the things that we've, had to really work on was like how do you ensure you streamline those opportunities throughout the organization, get things into people's hands. And then the very last thing we did was we knew that there was going to be a lot of distrust across the board, right, between upper management who doesn't understand what you're doing, and then clinicians on the front lines, et cetera. And so we actually began to work on, it's in process now, but a full end-to-end like AI governance tool that allows the entire process to be encapsulated into ideation through ML ops, everything tied together, very much like Advent was just for data, but think about it for AI, to where you can go one place and ideate all the way to implement, productionize, and then finally even sunset it, and where you know where it's at. So that was kind of the way that I'm hoping they continue that. I mean, I really think that's the way to kind of help enable everybody to feel comfort in the system.
Absolutely. Same question for you, Suresh.
Okay. So I think Dr. Schaefer very well elaborated it, but I want to add a couple more points where where I see the impediments of AI and where we need to innovate to get to the state where we need to get to, right? The three challenges that we encountered as part of the AI implementation across the organization, one is the organizational boundaries. The people to adopt and the resistance to adopt was one of the key hurdles that did that. The second one is the skill gap. There's a lot of skill gap that is happening today. You want to innovate on AI and things, there's still the same workforce. There needs to be a deepened planning on how do you re-energize your workforce, how to build that skill is a key thing. Learning and change management becomes a very significant part of it. And last but not the least, governance aspect of it. We need to be responsible, ethical, do the evals, and make sure we do that. Also on the technical front, one of the key aspects was the data silos that are currently there, right? You are in an environment today where you want to do AI ready, but in order to do AI first, you need to have a robust data strategy underneath. Without a robust data strategy, with data silos, data fragmentation, you can build AI apps, but they are point in time. The moment you move the data from your data into an AI app to suffice that, you are moving farther from the reality. The business challenges also as well. The business is not ready to adopt. Because of the lack of knowledge, again, the people needs to be rebuilt. And finally, we need to balance between automation versus human interaction. That key message needs to go in. AI can do a lot of things, but there are certain things that still humans need to do. So as long as we give these inputs to our stakeholders, our community, our business holders, and showcase the value that we get out of AI, I think that will be a win-win for both the stakeholders across the users, the people, the community as a whole, and also the overall business. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure those are considerations that a lot of you have as well. We've spent the past 3 days really diving deep within Databricks, and I wanted to take a moment to ask you both two sets of slightly different questions. The first being for you, Suresh. How are you using the Databricks platform? Can you share any of the use cases that you're using and some of the results that have been produced from it?
Absolutely. I mean, just to give a brief background, we started with Databricks as part of our modernization on the cloud. But what unfolded over the years was mind-boggling, right? We started off with liquid clustering. We started off with just preparing the goal layer. But what we saw as part of it coming, the Lakehouse framework, the ability to bring both the structured and the unstructured content together, the AI and the BI workloads. You were able to do your BI workloads earlier, but the AI workloads were pretty different. We were able to get the AI and the BI workloads together. and some of the great use cases that we were able to do. I will quickly do it in terms of three. We used the ML flow where we could generate, it was a month-long exercise where people across different countries and teams would do, was done in a snap of a second in a day. Without even being prepared for it, right? So MLOps, we were able to give a fund center unit, we were able to predict the actuals from the previous year, and it beautifully predicted what it would be in the outer years for them. The second very important use case at the World Bank, we have been in existence since 1957. There's a wealth of documentation with projects that we do. There are task team leaders who have written summaries of pages of documents which highlights the risk, why we did the project, what we did. So with Databricks, we were able to join the structured and the unstructured content. So a simple question, what are the problem projects that we are executing in India today and why is the disbursement low? The Genie will give you the first option of what are the projects. The projects will then be passed on to the unstructured content of it. Historically, why those projects were problem projects. And in like a minute or two, you get the responses for that project, why we are doing low, and what could be the reason. It could be the current government in power, the socio-economic conditions, the geographic boundary location. All this was done in a split second. Again, the third use case that I wanted to tell is the corporate scorecard use case, which is our yardstick of accountability to people outside of the world. We did 52 indicators as part of it. There were many, many, many data points that were there. The users were doing manually about what indicator fits into, what data fits into what indicator. We run it through an AI model with just tagging in with taxonomies. We had 90% accuracy. 10% was also right. It was our mistake of tagging it. So if we did it right, we did the taxonomy right, the tagging right, here is the power we could get in a snap of a second. Thank you. Over to you.
Impressive. To build off of that, Dr. Schaefer, can you speak a bit regarding the partnership that Databricks brings? How did that start for you, and how's that evolved?
Yeah, it was really great. I think I'm kind of alluded to it earlier in the thing, but you know, where we started out with the VA was we had a lot of disparate data all over the place, and it was in, you know, what was a world-class data warehouse and SQL servers in 2010 when it came out, and wasn't quite up to speed, you know, a few years ago as we started it. And, you know, I think one of the first things that we saw just with technology coming in is, you know, we do a lot with medical data. We're doing lots of research, things like that. And we had just running labs on like 10 billion labs on SQL Server was taking like 6 or 7 hours to get some precise, you know, big groups of precise out of it. We came in, began the partnership. We ourselves, with our engineers, got it down to like a minute, right? And then with Ching, which I have to always say, you know, Ching Sun's amazing. She's an engineer with Databricks. She came in, we started playing around with it, and she managed to get it down to 32 seconds. And so we like to boast that we made a 70,000% increase in the optimization of the speed of getting the data out. And so that's when we kind of knew this was going to be really cool, right? And we're going to be able to finally make some big changes. What we were able to do, Databricks was really good about trying to come in and find out where can we work together to make the best impact, right? Like, not what's important for Databricks, not what's flashy, like where can we actually make a difference? I think that was one of the things I really appreciated from them. At the same time, bringing to bear like legitimate top-end engineers right up front to work with us. You know, I mean, at the time, you know, I was Spencer. They didn't know me for anything, but we were able to like really get high-quality people involved. And that's where it kind of grew right into that, like, hey, like, we want to 10-year proof our organization, right? And we know AI is going to be a part of it. So instead of like let's experiment first, right? And let's see what we should do. We'd been predicting large language model kind of proper, you know, what they might be. By the time Llama 2 came out, we were like, look, like, what's the biggest gap we've had in medicine? And it's, everyone always says bad, I always love this. Everyone always says bad data, right? You don't have enough data, you have bad data, you have this. So it's like, no, we have great data. It's amazing data. It's just on a piece of paper somewhere. And so, You know, it's like, so how do you get that knowledge done? Well, I mean, we were like, I think this is going to work. Like, our problem's always been semantic and contextual. It's not that the data's not there. And man, we ran that, you know, we ran our first models of running PDF, scanning things in, doing PDFs, and it was incredible at like what it was pulling out. So then we were like, hey, like, I bet you can take large language models and have them start working together, right? And so we built agents before it was like called agents, you know what I mean? And then we were like, let's call them, it's so funny, we were like, it's like the Matrix, like let's call them agents. And the next thing, it's like, it was really what they were, that's what kind of they became. And so, you know, that was 24 months ago. We started like working them together, got some really amazing results with really the contextual ability to like make clinical scores that have never been done before, right? Like you can say, give it a 1 if it's moist, give it a 2 if it's dry, give it, you know, you can't do that. Like you can't write enough regex rules to catch all that in a progress note in many different ways. And it knew it. It was 14 notes we put in, 14 notes that score came out right. It was incredible. So that's when we were like, hey, this is all different, right? And so I think that what Databricks was able to do at that point was like, hey, like, this is it. Like, this is where it's going to be. So now, how do we help you build out the infrastructure so that you can actually accomplish this with 9 million patients, you know, in 1,200 medical sites and so forth. And so that's really what I think they really brought to bear for us was really this ability to, they're end-to-end, right? But they truly are end-to-end. You know, I mean, I would say that they really do bring that to the table, and it's not, we're really good at this, and we can help you with that. You know, it really is a really great relationship. And I think that what it allowed us to do was, you know, now we had a really good understanding of what it did versus a few other things. And we have that's why I was talking to Andrew earlier. It's like, we have a Ferrari. Like, we have a Ferrari with the keys in it at the VA. It's incredible. I mean, we can spin up an ultra cluster if we need to, right? I mean, because we do have the ability to fund that if we need to. And unfortunately, we haven't really got the car turned on yet. You know, but it's there, and we're waiting kind of to get it rolling. But, you know, we couldn't have done it, you know, without that kind of partnership that happened.
An exciting place to be in, and I appreciate you both sharing such thorough insights. In true closing thoughts to the whole summit, hoping that you can provide a little bit about what you're excited for in the future, whether it be the role of AI or any immediate opportunities to deploy the technology in just a minute or two.
Sure, thank you. So AI is the world forward, right? If you are not embracing this, I've said it in the previous session too, it is not about the fear of missing out, it is about the fear of absoluting yourself out. It's FOMO versus FOBO. You have to embrace AI. How do I look AI in the path forward? Right? There are many announcements that were made in Databricks today. If you talked about, you know, how you can use AI within the lake flow or within the data flow to build your pipelines, to automate your pipelines, to test your pipelines. This overall improves your productivity. How you can build agentic bots, like how you can build multi-genie room where you can ask a complicated question to a genie, a triple-pronged question where it moves from one genie to the next genie to the other one. The compound AI use cases, right? That is the one that I just alluded to. Agentic AI, the way forward with, I think, the agent flow that was announced, that is one of the key aspects. And not but last at least, the ML 3.0, the one that was released, will give you a lot of deep insights into it. But not only that, we have several other use cases where we can do also with AI. I think Andrew talked about a little bit. You need to know the right tool to use for the right purpose. So NLP, NLQ are some of the key features. AI-enabled features within your application, agentic AI, compound AI, and last but not the least is the augmented AI, the way you can use generative AIs within your applications and generate value. I mean, the key aspect is you have millions of fields defined. You can pass that field into the generative AI, and it will define you the business definition of it. So it's AI all over embedded. If you don't embrace AI, you're not just let out, but you're just gone out of the door. And with a lot of innovations coming in AI, I'm looking forward to personally myself with AI and quantum computing. Today, we just little bit of data, a little bit of memory, what we get, if we can achieve these results, imagine what we can do with quantum computing and AI. I think that's the path I'm looking forward to, and hopefully there'll be more investments. Databricks is going to invest in there and help us as clients moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Same or different?
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, I think he nailed, a lot of it there. I think that, to me, to kind of hone in on a couple things, I think number one is we absolutely, or you're going to have AI. If you're going to be successful, you better have agents working with agents, right? I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. You also, I think, need to ensure that, that you're really working hard with the governance and the trustworthiness and understanding, how to have those agents work together. I mean, we saw our first battle, I guess you would say, with insurance claims the other day. We had a lawyer agent and a research agent, and for the first time out of 1 billion claims, right, the first agent, the actual insurance agent was wrong, and the research agent came in, and to watch them come to a conclusion is just crazy. And I think that they didn't go ahead and move to the new language that they've all learned, but they did do that. And then I think finally, really, with all the people in your life and the employees in your organization, really stress with them, embrace it, right? This is why I work with all the healthcare workers and I'm don't fight it, embrace it. You've complained for 30 years, right, about how you can't work at the top of your scope. I'm a nurse and all I do is write notes, or all I do is this, or I'm a physician, I'll just don't fight AI, immediately take advantage of it and beginning doing those things that add value with all of your experience, so they can't get rid of you, right? You're bringing more value that you can bring. So, I think really kind of work within people to do that, I think, is the biggest change I hope we see, is that quality not only improves because of the process, but because we're allowing people to work what they're trained to do, top of their scope, and do things.
Well stated. And I just want to thank you both. I learned so much from each of you over these past few weeks of preparation and even today. So I think with that, we are closing this session and potentially Summit for you all. So again, thank you, Dr. Spencer, Suresh. And for the last time, I think we're putting up the survey as well. So give us your feedback, and thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day.